Hello everybody, welcome back. If this is your first time here, please like this video and subscribe so you don't miss the next updates. Let's get right into today's topic. Who is Simon Ekpa and everything you need to know about him? Simon Ekpa has become a name ringing in political, security, and social circles recently, especially with developments in Finland and Nigeria. The Finnish courts have just handed him a prison sentence, and that alone demands attention. I'm going to walk you through his background, what led to this situation, how people are reacting, and what this could mean for the future. Stay with me. Simon Ekpa was born on March 21st, 1985, in Ebonyi State, in southeastern Nigeria. Over the years, he relocated to Finland. He holds Finnish citizenship, speaks Finnish, and has lived in Lahti for a long time. In fact, he served in the Finnish military as part of his reservist duties. In Nigeria, he is known for his association with the pro-Biafra movement. The efforts to revive or re-establish the idea of a separate Biafra region. After the arrest of Nnamdi Kanu, the IPOB founder, Ekpa rose in prominence as one of the voices pushing for Biafra's restoration. In 2022 and 2023, Ekpa declared the activation of a Biafra government in exile and styled himself Prime Minister of that entity. The idea was that this government in exile would carry on the struggle, campaign for a referendum, and use moral pressure to rally supporters. In 2024, various things escalated. Ekpa reportedly initiated strict orders, lockdowns in parts of the southeast, demanding sit-at-home protests, and at times forbade any commercial or government activities during certain periods. The reasoning given was to pressure the government, enforce protest, and align people with the Biafra cause. But these measures also brought hardship, backlash, and security consequences. Then came the arrest. Back in November 2024, Finnish authorities detained Ekpa over allegations of terrorism-related offenses tied to his activities that allegedly affected Nigeria. Alongside him, other suspects were arrested in connection with the accusations. The investigation claimed that Ekpa used social media, networks, and contacts to incite violence, supply arms, and encourage militants in Nigeria's southeast. After months of trial, in September 2025, Ekpa was sentenced by a Finnish court to 6 years in prison. The charges against him included participating in the activities of a terrorist group, public incitement to commit a crime for terrorist purposes, aggravated tax fraud, violating provisions of the Lawyers Act. He had claimed to be a practicing attorney, unauthorized. The Finnish court stated that Ekpa had used his large reach on social media to inflame tension in Nigeria's southeast over the period from August 2021 to November 2024. It also found that he had helped to supply weapons, explosives, ammunition via his contact networks to groups in Nigeria. The verdict is not yet final, as Ekpa has the right to appeal. What makes this case more complex? Cross-border jurisdiction. The Finnish court held that even though the alleged offenses affected Nigeria, they were partly organized from Finland and thus fall under Finnish jurisdiction. Diplomatic, legal balance. Nigeria has pushed for extradition of Ekpa to face trial at home, but Finland's legal process must be respected. Local distancing. Interestingly, some groups in Nigeria's southeast have started to distance themselves from Ekpa after his conviction, seeing his methods and the fallout as harmful to the cause. Now, why should people care? Because Simon Ekpa is more than just a political figure. He's symbolic of tensions that persist in Nigeria. Questions of marginalization, identity, self-determination, security, and governance. His trial and conviction raise issues about how far activism can go before it's criminalized, the role of diaspora and external operations in internal conflicts, international cooperation against cross-border incitement or terrorism, the trust or distrust among people in the southeast toward leaders pushing for Biafra. Also, there are real stories of consequences, attacks, deaths, economic disruption. For example, in the southeast, there was a major attack on the Okigwe-Owerri highway, where 30 persons reportedly died and vehicles burned. Some suspect the Eastern Security Network, ESN, aligned with IPOB, to be behind it. That kind of violence heightens fears and puts pressure on governments to act decisively. And don't forget, in 2024, there was the Aba killings, an incident in Abia State where security forces and civilians were caught in violence tied to conflicting orders and commemorations in the region. Those kinds of flashpoints show how fragile situation is on the ground when tension is high. What's next? A few possibilities. Ekpa might appeal, and his prison term could be modified, reduced, affirmed, or changed. Extradition talks may intensify. Nigeria might renew its demand that Ekpa be handed over to face local charges. Local reactions could shift. Some in the southeast may reject him. Others may double down. The movement's strategy might change. Without Ekpa's direct guidance, if he's fully in prison, others may try to lead, or the movement might fragment. So, in summary, Simon Ekpa is a Nigerian-born, Finland-based political activist deeply involved in Biafra restoration efforts. His recent conviction for terrorism, tax fraud, and related offenses marks a major turning point. The case is loaded with implications for activism, state security, international law, and regional politics. If you're enjoying this explanation, do hit the like button again and subscribe if you haven't. I'll bring updates as appeals or reactions come out. Now that Simon Ekpa has been sentenced, there's been a wave of mixed reactions, both inside Nigeria and in the diaspora. Some people, especially in the southeast, are saying the judgment is good. That finally, someone who has been given dangerous orders from abroad is facing justice. Others, however, are calling it political, claiming that the Finnish government may have acted under pressure from Nigeria's diplomatic influence. Let's break this down gently so everyone can understand what's going on. For years, Ekpa has been one of the loudest voices pushing for a new Biafra state. He had thousands of followers across YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, and Facebook. Every week, he would release videos declaring new orders, from sit-at-home days to protests. And these messages spread fast online. But here's where things got complicated, when those sit-at-home orders started leading to violence. In some states like Imo, Anambra, and Ebonyi, people were attacked for not obeying the lockdowns. Shops were burned, vehicles destroyed, and people lost their lives. Even though Ekpa often said he never ordered violence, security agencies insisted that his words were encouraging chaos. This is one of the reasons why the Nigerian government reached out to Finland several times, asking them to look into his activities. At first, Finland said they were monitoring him, but couldn't act unless there was direct evidence. That changed in 2024 when the Finnish police officially launched an investigation into him, saying there were links between his communications and the violence happening in Nigeria's southeast. So, when he was arrested, it wasn't just about political talk. The Finnish investigators presented data showing his online streams were used to raise funds, purchase weapons, and support armed groups operating under the ESN, the Eastern Security Network. Ekpa's team denied all this, saying it was a frame-up. But the court still found enough proof to convict him. Now, let's talk about the effect of this development back home. In Nigeria, the news of his conviction divided opinion. Some IPOB members, still loyal to Nnamdi Kanu, said Ekpa's imprisonment might bring peace back to the southeast, especially since his own version of leadership had caused confusion. But others, who had already accepted him as their prime minister of the Biafra government in exile, said they would continue the movement regardless of his arrest. Meanwhile, the Finnish government has been careful. They said they are not taking sides politically. They are only enforcing their laws. They emphasized that freedom of speech has limits, especially when it crosses into incitement or promotes violence. That is a key point. Finland is not saying one cannot talk about self-determination, but they are saying you cannot use that talk to cause harm or spread fear. Now, let's touch on something interesting. Since Ekpa's conviction, reports from the southeast show that the sit-at-home orders have started losing strength. More markets are opening, schools are returning to normal schedules, and some transporters who used to fear moving on Mondays are back on the roads. People are gradually taking back their daily lives, and that's a good sign. However, not everything is calm yet. There are still some unknown groups claiming to act on Ekpa's behalf, releasing online videos and threatening those who disobey. The police and army have increased patrols in places like Onitsha, Owerri, and Aba to prevent fresh attacks. Many traditional rulers and church leaders are also speaking out, begging young people to avoid being used for violence. Let's also talk about Nnamdi Kanu's situation in all this. Remember, he's still in DSS custody in Abuja, awaiting the conclusion of his case. Many observers believe Ekpa's imprisonment could open a path for the Nigerian government to negotiate or review Kanu's case again. Some politicians from the southeast are already appealing to President Tinubu to consider dialogue instead of confrontation. And this is something that could change everything. Because if there's one thing most people agree on, it's that the southeast needs peace. Businesses are suffering, families are tired of fear, and investors are avoiding the region. Whether you support or oppose the Biafra idea, peace is necessary for progress. Now, looking ahead, the big question is, what happens to the Biafra government in exile? Well, it seems that after Ekpa's sentencing, the movement has gone quiet. Some of his so-called cabinet members have disappeared from social media, and their websites have not been updated in weeks. A few of them have even deleted their accounts entirely. Still, his followers insist that the struggle is not over. They believe Ekpa's case will make him a kind of hero, someone who sacrificed his freedom for their cause. But others are urging everyone to learn from this moment, to realize that using violence or inciting fear will never achieve true freedom. At the same time, we can't ignore the legal side. Finnish lawyers say Ekpa can still appeal, but the process may take months. During that time, he'll remain in custody unless the court grants him temporary release. Nigeria, on its part, is still trying to get his network investigated locally, especially those suspected of receiving money or weapons through his contacts. So, the situation is still developing, and as we continue to watch, it's clear that this story goes beyond one man. It's about the power of words, social media influence, and how easily online activism can turn into something dangerous if not managed well. If you're still watching, please like this video, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe if you haven't already, because I'll keep you updated on every new twist, every government response, and every reaction from both sides. Now, before I wrap up, let's touch on one last angle: the emotional side of this story. Many Nigerians in the southeast say they're just tired. They want development, good roads, jobs and security, not fear and shutdowns. They say we want our voices heard, but not through violence. That's the mood now. People are ready to move forward, but they need leadership that promotes peace and real change. So as we watch how Simon Ekpa's case unfolds, one thing is clear: it's a lesson for everyone, whether in politics or activism. Freedom of speech is powerful, but it comes with responsibility, and peace will always be more valuable than chaos. If you enjoyed this breakdown, please like, share and subscribe so more people can join the discussion. We'll keep following this story closely. Now, let's talk about the reactions from Finland and Nigeria's foreign ministry and what this means for both countries moving forward. After Simon Ekpa's conviction, Finland's Ministry of Foreign Affairs released a brief statement saying that the country's justice system operates independently and that the case was handled strictly under Finnish and international law. They emphasized that the court's decision was not influenced by any political or diplomatic pressure, but purely on evidence presented during the trial. That's very important because it means Finland wants to maintain its image as a country that respects rule of law and human rights. Remember, Finland is known globally for transparency, freedom of expression, and independent institutions. So, even though the Nigerian government had shown concern about Ekpa's activities, Finland wanted to make sure the process looked fair, not like a political witch hunt. On the Nigerian side, the reaction came quickly. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs thanked the Finnish authorities for taking the case seriously, calling it a step towards justice for victims of insecurity in the southeast. Some Nigerian officials even said that this judgment sends a message that those inciting violence from abroad will face consequences, no matter where they are. At the same time, some analysts in Nigeria are saying this situation could become a turning point in Nigeria's fight against diaspora-based incitement. Over the years, there have been several figures abroad, not just Ekpa, who use social media to influence security and political narratives back home. But now, this case may set a legal example, showing that even outside Nigeria, one can still be held accountable for actions that have violent outcomes locally. Now, let's bring it home and talk about how the Southeast can rebuild after the tension. Because honestly, that's where the real story is heading now. For close to 4 years, many people in that region have lived in fear. Every Monday, markets were shut down. Transport workers couldn't move freely. Children missed school. Businesses lost millions every week. And that's just the economic side. Not to mention the emotional toll. Families lost loved ones, and some people relocated entirely because of the insecurity. But in recent months, there's been a quiet but powerful shift. Local leaders, governors, traditional rulers, and even youth groups are now pushing for peace talks. There's a growing call for what they're calling Operation Rebuild Southeast. The idea is to bring stakeholders together: community leaders, religious heads, security agencies, and civil society groups, to find a lasting solution to the tension. A big part of that plan involves rebuilding trust. Many people in the region no longer trust the government because they feel neglected. Roads are bad, electricity is poor, and unemployment is high. So people are saying that peace will only be possible when there's real development. Not just speeches. In fact, a few weeks ago, the governors of Anambra, Enugu, and Abia reportedly agreed to work on a joint security and development initiative to restore calm and attract investment back to the region. They're also planning to meet with President Tinubu to push for more federal attention and projects in the East. Now, here's something interesting. Some young entrepreneurs from the Southeast diaspora are returning home to invest. They believe this is the right time to rebuild confidence and prove that peace brings progress. You can see small signs already. New tech hubs in Enugu, hospitality projects in Owerri, and agricultural cooperatives in Ebonyi. It's still early, but it's a good direction. Let's also not forget the power of media and narratives in shaping this change. Before, social media was used mostly to spread fear and anger, but now we are seeing young influencers using TikTok, YouTube, and X to promote peace campaigns, share stories of successful local businesses, and highlight the beauty of the Southeast. That's how the story should be told, with hope, not fear. So, as the dust around Simon Ekpa's conviction settles, this is a chance for everyone, both those in Nigeria and abroad, to rethink how they push for change. Words have power, and when they are used the wrong way, they can cause real pain. But when used the right way, they can rebuild unity, love, and understanding among our people. And remember, Nigeria as a country is stronger when every region feels included. That's the message many community leaders are repeating now. We want equity, not separation. We want progress, not protests. Let me end this part by saying this. The Simon Ekpa story is not just a political headline. It's a real-life lesson in leadership, law, and accountability. Whether you support his cause or not, it shows that our actions online and offline can have deep effects on people's lives. If you have watched to this point, thank you so much. Please like this video, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to stay updated, because I'll be following how the Southeast rebuilds after these years of tension and how both Nigeria and Finland continue to handle the diplomatic side of this matter. Now, let's continue the discussion. We're moving into the Nnamdi Kanu angle and how this whole Simon Ekpa issue might affect the 2027 elections in Nigeria. Right now, Nnamdi Kanu's case is still one of the most sensitive topics in Nigeria's political and security discussions. Since his arrest and return to Nigeria in 2021, he has remained in DSS custody, facing charges related to treasonable felony and incitement. Over the years, several court orders have called for his release, but the federal government has consistently appealed those rulings, saying his case is tied to national security. However, since Simon Ekpa's conviction in Finland, there's been a noticeable shift in tone among political leaders from the southeast. Many of them are now saying that with Ekpa's influence reduced, there's a clearer path to reopen dialogue for Kanu's release, or at least a political settlement that will calm tensions across the region. Let me explain why that's important. For years, Ekpa and Kanu's camps were at odds. Even though Ekpa used to introduce himself as Kanu's disciple, the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, later distanced themselves from him. IPOB spokesperson Emma Powerful said multiple times that Ekpa was never officially appointed to lead anything, and that his actions were creating confusion. But while Kanu was in custody, Ekpa became the loudest voice abroad, issuing instructions in the name of the struggle. Now that Ekpa is out of the picture for a while, many IPOB members and community leaders are hoping it'll be easier to manage communication, avoid fake orders, and possibly rebuild a structured approach to their advocacy. In fact, some Southeast senators and elders have been meeting quietly with government officials to see how Kanu's case could be resolved politically before the 2027 elections. They believe that releasing him under certain peace conditions could help restore calm in the region, win the government goodwill, and also open up political conversations about inclusion and restructuring. Now, let's talk about how all of this connects to the 2027 elections. Nigeria is already beginning to prepare for another general election cycle, and every political zone wants to have a strong voice at the table. The Southeast, however, has been struggling with low voter turnout and security challenges that scare people away from polling stations. Many analysts believe that resolving the tension surrounding the Biafra movement, including Kanu's detention and the aftermath of Ekpa's activities, could help rebuild political participation in the region. If peace returns, more people might be willing to come out and vote, and that could change how the Southeast influences national politics. Several new movements are also springing up in the region, focusing on youth empowerment and community development instead of agitation. They're using the slogan, "Vote, don't fight," to remind people that political power can only be reclaimed through peaceful and democratic participation. At the same time, both the ruling APC and the opposition parties, like PDP and Labour Party, are quietly watching how the Southeast responds to these developments. There's talk that the region could once again become a strong battleground in 2027, especially if trust between the people and the government improves before then. Now, on the diplomatic side, Finland's handling of Ekpa's case has also changed the conversation internationally. European countries are now paying closer attention to how Nigerians abroad use social media. They are beginning to tighten laws on hate speech, online fundraising, and incitement that could lead to violence in other countries. So, the Simon Ekpa case might actually set a global precedent. Meanwhile, human rights groups are calling for balance. They're saying that while it's right to punish incitement and terrorism, governments must also be careful not to silence genuine activism. They argue that people should still be able to talk about self-determination or human rights as long as it's peaceful. That's why Nnamdi Kanu's supporters continue to push for his release through diplomatic and legal means, not violence. Now, let's also look at the economic side of this conversation. Because everything, from politics to peace, connects to development. If peace returns to the southeast before 2027, the region could witness one of its biggest economic recoveries in years. Investors are watching. The Aba Industrial Hub, the Onitsha Inland Port, and the Enugu Tech Valley projects all have the potential to create jobs and revive hope. But all that depends on stability and trust. So you see, the Simon Ekpa story is no longer just about one man or a political movement. It's part of a bigger puzzle, a chain reaction that could affect peace, justice, economy, and even the next national elections. Before I round up this part, let me remind everyone watching. Peace pays more than violence. When a region is peaceful, businesses grow, children go to school, investors come in, and life improves for everyone. That's the direction Nigeria needs to move toward. If you're still watching, thank you. And please, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you can stay updated as we continue following these stories. Now, let's talk about how all this could shape the political alliances in the southeast ahead of the 2027 elections, and what roles key figures like Peter Obi, Hopi Uzodinma, and other southeast leaders might play. First, let's start with Peter Obi, the former Anambra State Governor and 2023 presidential candidate of the Labour Party. He remains one of the most influential political figures in the southeast today. Even though he didn't win the 2023 election, his campaign completely changed Nigeria's political map. The Obedient movement gave the southeast and youth across the country a new voice in politics. Now, with everything happening around Simon Ekpa and Nnamdi Kanu, Obi's approach has become even more significant. He's been careful not to support any form of violence or agitation, but at the same time, he has spoken openly about the need to address the root causes of discontent in the southeast. Issues like poor infrastructure, youth unemployment, insecurity, and lack of representation. In several interviews, Peter Obi said the federal government must apply dialogue, not force, in handling the region's challenges. So, with 2027 approaching, many believe he will still have massive grassroots support in the east, especially if peace is restored before the elections. Some insiders are even saying that he's quietly rebuilding political bridges across regions, preparing to contest again or play a key role in forming a broader coalition that could challenge the ruling party. Now, let's shift to Hope Uzodinma, the current governor of Imo State and a key member of the APC. He's seen as one of the most powerful politicians in the southeast right now because of his influence within the ruling party. With Tinubu as president, Uzodinma has been using his position to push for more federal projects in the southeast and to strengthen the RPC's base there. Interestingly, he's also been one of the loudest voices calling for calm and the end of sit-at-home orders. He believes the region's economy can only recover if businesses and investors feel safe. Recently, he launched new security initiatives in Imo State, involving local vigilantes, community leaders, and traditional rulers to maintain order. His success or failure with that effort could strongly affect how the Southeast votes in 2027. But there's another factor: the regional unity question. Historically, the Southeast has struggled with political unity. Each state tends to follow its own direction, with different parties winning in different places. For example, Anambra leans towards Labour Party, Imo and Ebonyi towards APC and Enugu towards PDP. If the region wants a strong voice in 2027, analysts say it must find common ground, at least on key national issues. And that's where the aftermath of the Simon Ekpa saga becomes politically relevant. For years, insecurity divided the Southeast and weakened voter participation. Now, as things begin to calm down, this could be the best opportunity for political leaders to come together and rebuild trust among their people. In this emerging calm, groups like Ohaneze and Digbo, the main Igbo socio-cultural organization, are pushing for a united Southeast political front. The idea is simple. The region should stop being divided among many parties and instead negotiate collectively for development and leadership opportunities at the federal level. But of course, politics is never that simple. Some governors are aligning themselves closely with the ruling APC because they believe being in government at the center brings more benefits. Others, like supporters of Peter Obi and Labour Party, argue that Nigeria needs a fresh start, one not tied to old political structures. Now, let's talk briefly about how the federal government might handle all this politically. If President Tinubu's administration can successfully calm the Southeast, support infrastructure there, and perhaps address Nnamdi Kanu's case through dialogue, it might improve APC's popularity in the region ahead of the elections. That could shift the balance of power, especially in states like Abia and Enugu, where voters are still open-minded. But if things remain tense, or if there's no real reconciliation, then opposition movements, especially the Labour Party, could gain even more sympathy. Remember, the Southeast has always voted based on emotion, identity, and trust, not just party loyalty. Now, let's also not forget other influential names. People like Charles Soludo, the governor of Anambra State, who has positioned himself as a reform-minded economist with a focus on development. Soludo's voice carries weight among elites and international circles. He's been one of the few leaders calling for a long-term economic master plan for the Southeast, beyond politics or agitation. If peace holds, Soludo could also become a key bridge builder between the federal government and the Southeast. In summary, the political future of the Southeast and how the Simon Ekpa issue influences it depends on three things: whether peace can truly return and people regain confidence, whether leaders can work together across party lines for common goals, whether the federal government handles the Nnamdi Kanu matter with wisdom and fairness. If those three things happen, 2027 could be a historic turning point, the year the Southeast reclaims its political strength in Nigeria. So, as we keep watching, remember, this is bigger than one person or one movement. It's about the story of a region trying to heal, rebuild, and find its voice again. If you're still watching, thank you so much. Please like this video, drop your thoughts in the comment section, and subscribe so you don't miss the next analysis. Comment continue if you want me to continue, and like and share this video.